everyone. Let's get dangerous.
This is so cool.
I know.
It feels so right.
With Jake Ciely.
He's opening our minds to new ideas. Kill him!
Who is that guy?
Your mama.
You just made the list.
Oh, wait, you serious? Let me laugh even harder.
It's all in football.
Sure, we talk about it all the time. Really? No. Burn.
What is up, you ducks? It is All in Football back on Wednesday, like we were supposed to be. But hey, it's the off season, so more things like that might happen going forward because we have the NFL draft coming up, and we are talking fantasy football top 10 running backs today. Going to get to that discussion, as well as probably things tying into that. Whether there's not going to be a rookie inside our top 10, I can promise you that this year. But there might be some interesting hockey coming up because the playoffs are right around the corner, right, Chris Meaney? I know you're excited for that. Rangers have a chance.
Rangers
actually shows up and doesn't crap the bed.
Rangers have a really good chance. Yeah, we're just 17 days, I think, away from the Stanley Cup playoffs. And last year, this time, the Rangers made a couple moves, and it seemed to mess with their chemistry. This year, they've just stayed the course, and I think it's a good thing.
We're going to see our church marriage group tonight. We're going to go see the Admirals. Their season is almost over. They're actually pretty good. They're in the playoffs in the whatever. They're the not good one. What's the second like ECHL? That's the non-good one.
Oh,
right? Like,
yeah,
that's the second level one.
ECHL. There's AHL, probably AHL.
That's which one's better?
League. American Hockey League
is the better one.
ECHL is like
they used to be in that one. Yeah, the EC.
Stuff.
Yeah, they got bumped around, and so anyway, nobody cares about that. They're here to talk fantasy football or watch us talk fantasy football, and at some point eat this wonderful nastiness that I promised I would do live on the show. The Sour Watermelon Peep.
Fox is like, no, what are you doing?
Like I don't know.
Seen those before.
They had like these Peeps are getting out of control. There was like birthday cake. Which, what was the other? Cotton candy, birthday cake, cotton candy, Dr. Pepper, this nasty sour watermelon, whatever the hell.
Yeah, that one doesn't. Yeah, that's, I don't know.
And there was something else too. Like they're going crazy. You know what? They're following suit at Oreos. Like, have you noticed Oreos kind of stopped finally? Like they chilled out. They kind of was like, you know what? We'll do like 3 special flavors.
Nobody was buying them. I don't think like, I'll try this. And it's like, nah, like nothing beats the original Oreo. I mean, you can't mess around too much with these variations.
Like I didn't like Oreo come out with what is the ones with the worms, the dirt and worms or whatever it was. Like at that point, like just stop. Like it just.
I don't know if that was available to me. There was like pink,
the cookies and cream, which was just an Oreo inside of an Oreo. Like
right,
and they inceptioned themselves for Oreos.
I like me a little cookies and cream though.
Peaches and cream or cookies and cream?
Cookies and cream.
There was a reference there. There's a 112 and also
112.
Probably not appropriate for this.
No,
what is appropriate?
It's a random flow jam.
I know. We should talk, big news. The Chiefs, 2 things. Actually, the Chiefs not getting funding for their stadium from the people, which I have no problem with. I mean, that is a whole other conversation for a whole other day and like whatever. But anyway, point being, not funding for the they re-signed Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Speaking of top 10 running backs, remember that one season when everybody was drafting him in the first round? But here's the interesting thing. I wanted to ask you, we might as well start there with one of your favorite players at running back for the past year plus. You were a fan of him 2 years ago and then really last year. Actually finished 10th at running back this past season. Total points, in points per game, he's not inside the top 10. But Isiah Pacheco, can he be a top 10? Can he be an RB1 in 2024? Because just like we do every single time this early in the season, meaning you know what we're doing. We're making lists. And his top 10 running backs today, does he make your top 10? I know you have Underdog pulled up too because we'll be referencing that, but does he make it for you?
No, he doesn't, but I wouldn't be shocked, like, at the end of the day, if he was in that 8 to 12 range, like, right there is low-end RB1 status. The thing that I liked the most about him last year was in his rookie season, he hardly caught any passes, and down the stretch of the season, it still wasn't significant, but it was like 1 or 2 a game, where the first 8 games is just like nothing that he had out of the backfield. Then it carried over into the playoffs. And then last year, he's with the team. It's year 2, and of course, is like a late round rookie. I wouldn't imagine he was taking many first team reps in his rookie season. And then last year, he's out there running routes like immediately in training camp, catching passes from Patrick Mahomes. Like, oh wow, like great, we're gonna add a little bit to his 15 plus carries on the ground in what is a really good offense. So I think he could grow as a pass catcher. I mean, last year 44 grabs on 49 targets in 14 games. That's pretty significant, and a lot of that had to do with the Mahomes' weapons not catching any passes, probably. But I'd say we can give him another 40 grabs. And I'm not worried about Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I think this is great news. So, yeah, I think, maybe not top 10, Jake, but I'd say like 12, 13, 14. I think I'd rather have him than like Kenneth Walker.
I could agree with you on Kenneth Walker. What about Rachaad White? Buccaneers basically running it back for 2024 at this point.
Yeah, and the past 2 years have been dead last in rushing, but still still White was great last year, all of the touches. I'll probably lean him because there's more like bell cow work like that. There's probably more touches and opportunities for him. And we know that he is definitely going to catch like roughly 50 passes. So I'll lean with him.
For argument's sake here, Rachaad White was only 0.2 points per game higher than Isiah Pacheco because Pacheco missed time late in the year. Also, Rachaad White, the only running back inside the top 8 who didn't even reach 1,000 yards besides Breece Hall. Like, those were the two, and they both barely missed it, 994 and 990.
6 carry. Yikes.
That's why I think you can actually make an argument. Like, if you told me Pacheco, so if you start from week 12, 13, 16, 17, again, 14, 15, not in there. Wild card, playoffs, championship game, Super Bowl, but at least 12 points in every single game. Actually, 11 for the game against the Vegas Raiders. I don't know why I skipped over loss. Yeah, the Vegas Raiders. So, the touches, 20, 21, 15, 25, 26, 16, 28, and 24 in the Super Bowl. So the bell cow work is there. Part of that was also Jerick McKinnon was hurt. Clyde Edwards-Helaire got hurt, was okay at times too. He came back. Jerick McKinnon gone. Like, he's not coming back. I doubt. Like, did he? He hasn't signed yet, right? I
haven't seen him sign anywhere.
I had some travels, so it's like I'm missing some stuff. Like, there was one where, what was the biggest thing? I missed something in baseball. Paul Sewald, when I came back, because I was gone for like that 1 week right in there. Yeah. And I came back and somebody was like, you still have Paul Sewald with like 27 saves. And I'm like, and I went back and looked at like, oh, I might need to update Paul Sewald.
You know what I missed was Cordero Patterson. I woke up in a chat and was like, man, Arthur Smith, he loves himself some Cordero Patterson. I'm like, what? He went to Pittsburgh? And then I had to like look that up, and I was like,
well, let's talk. You know what?
It bothered
sidebar. Me. You brought it up. We'll sidebar this real quick. The return rules is why, like, I mean, it was almost within the hour of it being announced. So the return rules, if anybody missed that, that's what happened in football. The NFL is testing for 1 year. It could continue after this, but it's only a 1 year. This is an official rule change for multiple seasons. This is 2024. Rule change. They're taking the XFL, which is so weird to me because if you watched the UFL, they actually scrapped it. They didn't use it's so weird that the NFL took the XFL's rule, and then when they combine and they went to their new UFL, they're not using it. They're just doing a normal kickoff from further back, which is just, anyway. So they're kicking off like the XFL used to. They kick off I was going to call them the offensive line. Basically, the return blockers can't move. They're all lined up together. They can't move until the ball has been received. And then they can start blocking, and then everybody can start moving, which is supposed to prevent injuries. And as you saw, the XFL, what was the return rate? Like 60 or 70%? It was super high. It might have even been 80. But the NFL has been super low. And then Cordero Patterson signed. So, real quickly, does that bring any interest to you in taking a flyer on Cordero Patterson late? Because I think the leagues, like, I remember 8, 9, 10 years ago, people were like, well, what would you get this person or this person? My league gives return yards. Nobody really does that anymore. Like no. Just because no. Do you think this comes? Like, I'm throwing so many questions at you with this, but I think you can handle it. Cordero Patterson interest, other players like him. I have a sneaky team that I think could be huge if you just look at it defensive, scoring, special teams wise, and I'll save that for a second because I'm throwing way too many things at you. But all that being said is, do you have an interest also in maybe playing in a league that actually brings back return yards?
Yeah, I would be interested in that. And my league used to do it as well, but the past couple of years, there's just been, no returns. I heard the Kelsey guys talk about it on their podcast, and there was some rumors last year, midway through the season, that they were just going to scrap it all together, and there'd be no kickoff to start a game. And Travis was so pissed off. He's like, man, that's football. Like, you have to have it. They have to figure out to have a way to incorporate this back into the game, right? We've seen so many, I think about in the Super Bowl between the Bears and the Colts, how that Super Bowl started with Hester, returning it. We've seen, so many exciting plays. And in the Super Bowl, it was no return at all. Everything was just kicked through the end zone. So I like it. And I think if your league can, why not? Sleeper adds you have just about every single, statistic or category to add to your fantasy league. And I think this is going to help. We're going to see teams return, and there's going to be some movement. We're going to see touchdowns back again in this game. I don't know if Cordero's a guy that I care about, but he's been good.
Well, there's an interesting question. So I was on with the CBS guys. If you were doing, if you were commissioner scoring, you choose, would you give the touchdown to the defense and the player, or only one or the other? Because I actually always gave it to both. And I think just because, how often do you actually double up with the same defense and the same player? And, why wouldn't you give it to Cordell Patterson? He's the one that returned it. But also, why wouldn't you give it to the Steelers? Because they're the team that had the return on their team.
It's defense and special teams.
Yeah, defense and special. So I'm with you. I always done both. Here, okay, so I'm going to see if you can come up with the team right off the top of your head. I didn't prep you for this. It's not even the show sheet. Can you think of a team that's going to get a boost from this? I have a sneaky one that's going to be obvious once I say it, but I don't think it's obvious because people won't think of this team. I'm giving you a big hint. Using their best players to potentially return the ball. Because here's the thing. Teams were not used so a few years ago, just go back 3 or 4. A few years ago, teams weren't using their best players because why are we going to risk getting hurt? Why are we going to risk our best, fastest players getting hurt? I'm giving you a lot of fastest players. Yeah. There you go. Tyreek Hill and Achane returning kicks.
Yeah, and Hill. Hill used to do it at times.
Hill used to. Yeah.
Yeah. Andy Reid used to put him out there, but Antonio Brown, I remember a couple times as well, but it just didn't make any sense to your point. Guys were just getting hit, but now they're not going to have the huge runoff. So you're going to have some time now to catch the ball and make some noise. So yeah, Miami
defense. Tyreek Hill's the number 1 pick. A lot
of fast dudes. He's already number 1 for me anyways, but at wide receiver. But man, if he starts returning punts, and that is a game changer. Michael chimes in. Dolphins.
If your league gave return yards,
yes,
Tyreek Hill 101 over CMC. And we get news that Tyreek.
Yes.
That Hill's actually involved.
We are going to take advantage of this new rule, and we are going to have Tyreek Hill return punts, and you are going to get the extra yards on top of the 175.
What if it's Achane? Is he a top 10 running back? I'm pulling this all together.
Yeah, you are.
Achane announced as kick returner, and your league gives kick return yards. I think you make a case that he's a top 10 running back.
I'm excited. All the negative people out there would say, "Oh, he's just going to get hurt right away, getting all those." But I think with this new rule change, it does protect the players, and it opens up an avenue for returns. And that is, again, I'll say it one more time. That's a game changer if you're going to add extra yards in fantasy for punt returns. It's 3 or 4 a game where it could rack up 100.
So you're saying Achane is not a top 10 running back for you then? As of right now, listen, no return yards, just as it stands, because last year he actually finished 4th in points per game. He was the 4th highest scoring running back in points per game. He's already 9th in average draft right now. I don't know what he is over at Underdog, but you want to check real quick to see if he's 9 over there too, or if he's even inside the top 10.
Yeah, he's even higher. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 ADP of 19. That's too high for me. I can't take him over. He's going ahead of Jacobs, ahead of Derrick Henry. I'm fine with him going ahead of ETN, ahead of Rashad White, James Cook. The thing with ETN and James Cook, are these guys real goal line threats inside their
We're going to talk about all of them.
Yeah. It's still a little high for me, Achane. I don't know how many shares I'm going to have.
I'm at 11.
And I think that's fair.
I think part of it for me And so when I did my way too early rankings, I did a couple notes for each position. And one of mine initially was talking about the fact that I said Raheem Mostert, I don't get the disrespect for 2024. And somebody in the comments was like, what are you talking about disrespect? Like he's, whatever. And I'm like, I think it's the fact that if you look at his ADP / ranking / people have him like around RB30. And like, why are we just like throwing him away? Like it can't happen again. And no, of course, I'm not going to bank on getting that many touchdowns, but let's go back to Raheem Mostert last year. Oh, by the way, the number 2 scoring running back with 1,000 rushing yards. It's not like he only had 818 touchdowns. He also chipped in 25 receptions for 175 and 3 receiving. Again, not saying throw it out and none of that could happen again, but I mean, you chop it in. Like, let's just make the argument. You chop it in half, he's RB32, and that's about where he's going. Right. Like, is he really going to be half as productive in 2024? And I bring that up to say that's part of the reason I don't have Achane inside the top 10 is I just don't think the Dolphins are going to be like, you know what? Achane's an injury risk, as you already brought up. He's smaller. Let's give him 14 touches a game, drop Mostert down to 5 to 8 when everything worked perfectly for them last year.
Yeah, exactly. And if you look at Achane, like 103 attempts on 11 games. So, yeah, this guy's roughly getting 11 to 12 carries a game, and Mostert had 200 on 15. So I think it's going to be a very similar workload between these two guys. And it's a lot like Gibbs and Montgomery, but I think a higher ceiling here. And I'd say Gibbs out of all the 4 is the better back, and I think he's got the higher ceiling of the 4, but Mostert's not going anywhere. And the fact that they brought him back on a 1-year deal, and we can just say the same thing that we've said when he was originally brought over with Mike McDaniel being in San Fran, right? And they said, hey, we're going to use you the same way in Miami that we used you in San Fran, and they weren't lying. Like they gave him first and second down opportunities. He caught a few 25 catches out of the backfield, 21 total touchdowns for this guy, and 18 on the ground. I'd say he gets double digits again, the way that this offense can score points.
Double-digit touchdowns?
Yeah, and if he's getting double-digit touchdowns, he's finishing in as an RB2.
Would you take Mostert or David Montgomery? Basically similar running back situations and usage. Yeah. I would actually take Mostert. I think Mostert gets more consistent work than David Montgomery because Jahmyr Gibbs in his second season.
That's what I was thinking too, Jake, is that second year for Gibbs, we could actually see a little bit of a leap because we saw it towards the end and into the playoffs. I think a little bit more usage for him, and where I don't fully think he's going to overtake Montgomery, but I'd say that the touches are a little bit closer, maybe in Miami. So I don't know. I'd lean Mostert there.
So where do you think Gibbs ranks right as of now? Well, you can check Underdog for me too, but I'm talking about
probably like RB 3 or 4. My guess.
So I think this is pretty disgusting. So this might be a good time to do this because it is this disgusting rank. I'll try. You can see I didn't even try these beforehand. Like, holy crap! Like hermetically seal these things. There we go.
This is going to be a bust for us, I have a feeling, and I hate to throw it out there because we love them, but man.
Holy crap, that watermelon smell. Oh my God.
Like your eyes water or what?
No, it's just, it's pink in the middle too. I don't know if you can see this. Let's see.
Oh, yeah.
There we go. Look at that.
Man,
full on.
I've never even tried these before. I don't even know what they
have. You ever you've had Peeps though, right?
No.
You've never had a Peep ever?
No, never. I'm embarrassed to say it. I've never.
It's just sugar-coated marshmallow. I mean, it's not like...
I don't think we get them here.
Barkley's is super interested in it.
Barkley's like, yeah, let me have some. This smells awesome.
Oh wait, I promised somebody on Twitter I would do the whole thing at once. I was about to take a bite, but
do it. Make it like Joey and chuck 5 of them in your mouth. Speaking of the Oreos.
Oh my God.
He doesn't like it, folks. You can already tell. He's not going to be able to get through this, Fox.
No, it's just, I'll get through it. It's just, yeah. It is like, I'm trying to think. Yeah. Well, there's like a candy that
no.
Barely.
No.
It's super fake watermelon tasting. Like, oh my God. Like
the fake watermelon taste is the worst.
It's like, actually, the fact that it was in my mouth that long, phrasing, it started to disintegrate too at the same time. Hold on, I need to drink something. That was gross. You talk about it as gross as the fact that why is Jahmyr Gibbs at number 4, as you called it correctly. Actually, on one site, I see him at 3 for right now for drafting next. God, I gotta take a drink.
Yeah, take a drink, bud. Yeah, looking at underdog ADP here, drafts are starting to ramp up. Of course, CMC is 1.1. Bijan is number 2, which I agree with. Bijan has moved up to number 2. I'm sure we'll get into him a little bit. Brees, and then Gibbs. Gibbs has moved up ahead of. I mean, I don't even know if he's moved up. Like, he's just there in front of Kyren Williams and Jonathan Taylor and Saquon Barkley, 3 backs that I could certainly make a case for over Jahmyr Gibbs. I mean, oh, yeah, Barkley's like, yeah, give me that. Give me that.
I don't know. She's hesitant on it. What does that tell you?
Yeah,
Barkley sniffed.
That's a bad sign.
And licked it, and now she won't even eat it. What is that? This dog eats everything, too. Like,
my dogs are usually interested in just about anything as well. And I went to give a dill pickle crisper to him, like a chip, the other day, and he took one lick and just ran the other way and said, "No thanks."
She does not want that. That's all you need to know about these freaking peeps. Is that
are peeps actually good though? Like, do you like peeps?
Okay, they're the candy. They're the candy corn of Easter. Yeah.
Okay.
Do you like marshmallow? Like in general?
Yeah, I like marshmallow. I like s'mores.
They're not the worst of the worst. I would actually take them over candy corn. I actually would take them over a couple things like those peanut circus peanuts. I would take them over those. The Nello wafers, what the hell those things are? I would take them over. Like, there's some terrible Halloween candy. I actually have a worst top 5 inside my Halloween candy. Right? I would take them over. Not these watermelon one though. Like the original, because it's just sugar, like marshmallow. Like so. Like I mean, it's. Oh God, what is the? Let's see right now. What is the calories on these things? 4 chicks has 110 calories. I would have guessed way more than that. Only 6 grams of sugar per chick. That's actually how it describes it. It's per chick.
Per chick.
Like, I'm not just saying that just to be like. It legitimately says 4 chicks.
Yeah.
Well, 4 chicks in the back.
Nicole gonna eat that?
No. Use them for landfill. So anyway, back to Jahmyr Gibbs. I'm 100% with you on Jahmyr Gibbs. I think we kind of touched on him briefly on a previous show, but I had Gibbs at 9. Like, I would take Jacobs.
Wow.
I would take what? That would take Jacobs, or that he's at 9?
That he's at 9, but I agree.
Well, let's talk through it.
Yeah,
we're making our top 10.
Yeah.
So this will be a good way to make our top 10 at this point, because now we're going to have 8 guys in front of him. We all agree CMC's 1. I think that if you're in keeper / dynasty, you think about starting to field trade offers at this point, given his
100%.
age. And I mean, it's not going to get much higher than this. The worst thing that could happen is dinged up in preseason, which we know he's not really going to play, but dinged up in practice, dinged up in week 1, 2, 3, like has an off year. Even put it this way: if Christian McCaffrey 2024 plays full season, has a good season, but he has a Barkley season and he's RB 6, 7, boom, his value's out the window. Plus, that's another year on top of him. So I'd field him. Don't just get rid of them, but I would definitely field offers. I'm always fielding offers for running backs, to be clear.
100%.
Like the first thing, as soon as Jacobs signed with Green Bay, field offers for
Make them
Jahmyr
available.
White.
Absolutely agree.
That too.
That's what you got to do. Yeah.
So, all right. So starting at 9, we'll open it up and just say if you disagree with the people I have in front of them. So Jacobs with Green Bay, especially now that Aaron Jones is gone. They brought back A.J. Dillon. A.J. Dillon is meh. You're telling me Jacobs with the same workload and now the Green Bay offense and the Aaron Jones workload in the pass catching, like, I would take Jacobs over Gibbs. I know, put it this way, me. I see the argument for Gibbs, and I think there is a world where Gibbs outscores Jacobs, but I still prefer Jacobs because Gibbs 1 week will be 24, 1 week 3, 1 week 20, 1 week 7. And I think Jacobs will just sit in that 13 to 20 every single week, and that's why I would prefer Jacobs.
I totally agree, and I just don't see where there's going to be games in Green Bay where Dillon has like two or 3 touchdowns. Like, and that's possible in Detroit's offense. We just know that Montgomery is going to be leaned on inside the 5. There's going to be times with Gibbs gets those touches, but Montgomery is a back that they really like
in my throat,
and they trust. So
I was trying to hold in the cough. Sorry.
I think we're going to be alone on this, but it's good to talk. It's good to talk this thing out, and I just think it's the usage.
Where is he on underdog?
Jacobs is after Achane, so 9.
Oh, he's 9?
32, 80.
32, that's more what I was interested in.
Yeah.
Like,
so 11 to 32, there's a pretty big gap there.
That's a 32. I mean, to get him in the 3rd round, late 2nd even at worst case.
Late 2nd.
Yeah.
You could start wide receiver and have a Jacobs and
You're
Henry
getting a
one.
bell cow running back in the 3rd round.
Yeah.
Okay. The one right in front of him. Do you want to guess who's at 7 for me?
For 7 would be Henry.
Doesn't catch a lot of passes. There you go. Yeah. Derrick Henry is. So the funny thing was, you sent a message in Slack to Fox and me, and it was Henry in the 3rd, and you were like, "Come on!" And like, I'm not lying. Like at first when I read it, I was like, "Is he mean come on like that's too late, or come on that like he actually took him in the 3rd?"
I think
and
it's
like,
too late.
That's what, so I wasn't sure, like at first, like which way you were going with it, because I think you're going to have a lot of people go both ways with this. I think you're going to have a lot of people be like, Derrick Henry, the running back for the Ravens. I mean, we've seen Mark Ingram on 200 carries be a top 10 running back. This is multiple years ago. Gus Edwards last year, not even 200 carries, 13 rushing touchdowns. And you tell me Derrick Henry can't be top 10. So I was like, again, I could see either way. So are you with me on this? Not only would you take Derrick Henry over Gibbs, would you take Derrick Henry over Josh Jacobs as well?
I would, yeah. I'm buying in. I know he's not going to catch any passes in the year older. I don't care about last year at all. I don't believe that he's completely washed. I just think he was in arguably one of the worst situations a running back could be in, with a rookie quarterback for half the season, with a brutal offensive line and a team that hardly crossed midfield. So he's just in the best situation, I think. Besides Saquon, like he is, like nobody runs the ball better. Nobody wants to run the ball better. You talked about this last week. And when it happened, you mentioned it. Like Lamar was a guy they hardly had we don't view him. I don't view him like Josh Allen and Jalen Hurts as like a guy that's automatically going to run in at the 5 or sneak it at the 1. Gus Edwards is among the leaders in red zone rushing attempts inside the 5. And that's all going to go to Derrick Henry.
13 rushing touchdowns. You remember off the top of your head how many Lamar Jackson had last year?
I think 5.
Rushing? 5 or 7. 5. Everybody's like, it's like you said, it's not Josh Allen. It's not Cam Newton back in the day. It's like he doesn't run that many in at the goal line. He's not going to steal it. Like, I'd be more concerned with Caleb Williams doing it when he's drafted. Even Jaden Day. Hell, I'd even be more concerned of Drake May doing it because he's slightly better Sam Howell and just kind of in that Josh Allen mindset of once you get down there. Like there's a handful of quarterbacks in this draft, actually a lot of the top quarterbacks in this draft that I'd be more concerned, just straight up more concerned running the ball in at the 5 versus Lamar Jackson. So I'm with you. I think Derrick Henry, where is he an underdog? Is he even 32? No. Like let me guess. He's 47th.
He's 41.
No, I overshot just a little bit.
So, he's 41 is RB11, but there's a big grouping here of like Henry, White, and Cook, like all within a couple picks of each other.
So
I think that he's on a tier ahead of those guys, I think.
Oh, I have White at 12. I have Cook at 15. Like, why are we pretending like, speaking of Josh Allen, why do we keep pretending like things are going to change? This is going to say, I'm just also waiting for the Bills watch. They draft like a 4th round running back.
Like, 100%. Or bring in Zeke. On Zeke's still out there, right? Like that just seems like a move that they would make. Like
everybody's like Blake Corum is going to go back to Harbaugh. I'm like, watch Blake Corum go to the Bills, like just like something like that, and just like ruin
Buffalo
everything.
Or Dallas, they're doing something in the draft, I think.
So, actually, let me kind of spin this as we pause real quick on Derrick Henry because you just brought that up. I wasn't even thinking to ask you this question. Blank drafted running back in the 2nd or 3rd round to Dallas Cowboys. Are they immediately an RB1?
I think probably so. Low end, ahead of ETN and ahead of Cook, and maybe ahead of Rachaad White. Yeah, like in that conversation, like I just don't understand why ETN's going ahead of Henry. I like him as a back, but I just
like they don't even have to be the first running back off the board in the NFL draft. It's just the fact of if the Cowboys draft one in the 2nd or 3rd round, put that capital on them, and probably I'm assuming given their backfield, probably not Jonathan Brooks. Given his injury, but I mean, if it is, there's arguments out there for people who have Brooks as number 1. But like, if it's a Brooks, it's a Marshawn Lloyd. I mean, you could go down the list. Like, I don't think it would be Blake Corum because I don't even think he's top 4 or 5. But point being, whoever they take ahead of Rico Dowdle, or I mean, is there an argument that Rico Dowdle gets 40% and maybe it's just a timeshare and this person, whoever it might be, is vastly overdrafted?
Yeah, I don't think Rico's a guy that can. I don't know. I don't want to be too hard on him. It just doesn't feel like a guy that's going to get 40% or should get 40%. I just think he's like a little change of pace. Maybe he gets like 15 to 20% of the touches. I definitely think that they're drafting a guy, and if they draft a guy in the second round, he's gonna get the bulk of the work.
All right, let's play this game then, real quick. We'll say, so my tier one, which is coming out on The Athletic next week, by the way, my tier one of running backs is Braylon Allen, Trey Benson, Jonathan Brooks, and Marshawn Lloyd. That's my tier one, those four. I go alphabetically by last name because if I wanted to rank Benson over, Brooks, like because he's held, like it's nitpicking because we're going to find out in the draft these are all going to shift anyway. Actually, for my tier two is, how many did I finish in my tier two with? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 running backs in tier two. What?
Wow. Yeah, that's what I guessed. 8 or 9.
Yeah, it's a big one. Corum, Davis, and there's 2 Davises. Isaiah Davis and then Ray Davis, Estime, Gore, Garendo, Irving, Shipley, and Wright. There you go. Super sneak preview of what's coming out. Anyway, let's go back. Let's just throw out Benson. Let's say Benson. Benson got drafted by the Cowboys around 2 or 3. Trey Benson or Travis Etienne? Make that call right now.
Benson?
Okay.
Yep.
Would you go Benson or Gibbs?
I'd probably go Gibbs.
So it's right. The cutoff is like right there around 10 because you said Benson. You said over Rashad White. Would you take him over Achane?
I would.
With the kick returning. No.
No. That kick return is a nice little caveat there. But
how about my Houston Texan Joe Mixon?
Over, I'd probably take Mixon over
Benson.
Yeah.
Is Mixon going to be a huge value next year?
I really do think that Mixon will be. Yeah.
Is Mixon a top 10 running back?
I don't think so. Like, there's so many guys.
Pacheco or Mixon
is a top 10.
I know, but that's what we're doing here. We're trying to make this list. Mixon or Pacheco, you have to draft one.
I would lean with Mixon. Yeah. I would lean with Mixon. It's the catches, man. Like, I know he hasn't been super efficient, but he has caught a lot. He's been like sneaky good as a pass catching running back over the past couple of years, and just this is exactly what this offense missed. So I would go Mixon, and I do believe he's going to be a really good value. He's actually not.
Is he behind Henry?
Top 60. Oh yeah,
I was gonna say top
60 with Aaron Jones and Alvin Kamara.
I mean, we're talking about bell cow. That offense. All right, so let's get back to this list. At 6, I have Jonathan Taylor. You good with Jonathan Taylor 6 over those two?
I thought you maybe have him a touch higher, but
there's the top 5. You'll find out why.
I know.
So
I get it.
I know. Number 5 is the person you should know who number 5 is at that point because I keep yelling about it this entire offseason of why does he continue to slide down draft boards, and it's just like nothing has changed. Yeah, nothing's changed for Kyren Williams. I get it. Look, I understand the hesitancy over what happened last year, the hesitancy of what's happening with the Rams backfield year in and year out, and the hesitancy of Kyren Williams standing up to that kind of workload. Like, if you told me right now, once again, he's going to average over 20 touches per game. Meaney and I sat on this show and the Sirius XM show, and I still remember that one week where his carries over-under was 19.5, and he hit it by 3. Like, went way past. It was just, to have carries, to have Vegas put your carries essentially at 20 is an insane number in today's NFL, and he's hitting it. And the problem is like Kyren Williams with 20 touches a game. It's like, how do you not get hurt? How do most running backs not get hurt with 20 plus touches a game? So I understand that. But I'm just not going to play the injury risk game because every single year could be anybody, especially at running back. I mean, Saquon Barkley for the longest. Saquon Barkley's legs are tree trunks. Let's be honest about it. And somehow he still gets nicked up here and there, especially like the ankle twisted. Like, whoever saw that coming? So anyway, that's my argument there. Number 4, is he too low now? Bijan Robinson, is he too low at 4? You said you like him at 2. Is like, are we coming back? Right?
I'm in. And it's a complete opposite. Obviously, if you guys were listening to us and watching us last year, we were both out on. Oh
yeah, if Jay is still watching, we joked the living crap out of you for taking him with the second running back off the board.
Poor
He wasn't alone, to be fair.
No,
that was the
the
entire industry.
Yeah, he wasn't alone, and then even after he picked, I remember we were chatting in New York when we were doing the draft. Even after, he was just like, I know, guys, I know it could be a difference maker, and he certainly could be. And the biggest thing was just we just felt like he was getting drafted at his absolute peak and his ceiling,
right?
And yeah, it was nothing against the player. It was more so Arthur Smith. And I didn't even think that Algier would be mixed in as much as he was. I thought he would be sprinkled in because of Arthur Smith, but he was sprinkled in way more than I thought. There were other guys that were there was multiple times Cordero Patterson and Algier getting touches inside the red zone. I just don't think that that's going to happen for Raheem Morris, man. Like, I think Falcons fans should be fired up about Morris coming in, Kirk Cousins coming in. The offensive line is good. This is like Bijan. I think he's going to catch 50 passes. So he is my number 2 overall, but I do believe he's on this tier with the guys that we're going to talk about after, CMC's on an island, but he deserves to be in a tier with like 3 or 4 different guys here.
Like balance one of the peeps up here or something like that. Only because the taste is still in my mouth. Like just making me think of it.
And by the way, with Kyren, I was just looking again. I mean, 21, 25, 27, 22, 20, those touches and carries. Like, how about the catches that Stafford gave him? There were 2 games, back-to-back games where he had 17 targets. Then there was a stretch where he had 6, 5, 4, and 7 targets and racked up 17 catches over that span. Like, it's not just 17 to 20 carries. It's, man, this guy's also going to catch 4 or 5 passes, maybe 3 probably on average. So he's going to, if he can hold up, Jake, he's going to finish top 3 and probably touches. Which he's going to get more touches than Gibbs.
And that's the bell cow workload that I think that everybody, like, that's what I'm excited for. I think part of that too, as I'm listening, I'm also, speaking of holding up, I'm pouring water over this thing to see if it even disintegrates. I'm super curious about this thing now. It's like this thing is just like, remember Twinkies? They're supposed to hold up through the apocalypse or whatever. Mm-hmm. I think Peeps might be. It's floating.
Oh, it's floating.
It's floating in the water. I was doing science projects over here. I think part of the fear is that what if Stafford gets hurt too? Because that would become a disaster. He's been dinged up, and I mean, right now, do they turn? Well, I mean, what do they?
I forget who they brought in
for
a backup.
Dolphins.
It's better than the backup that they had, I think.
Oh, it's Garoppolo. Remember? But they don't have him for the first 2 weeks. So, Jimmy Garoppolo. All right. So, Bijan at 4, you have too low. So, all right. So, would you go Bijan Robinson or now your new boy stolen from my old team, so that's why I'm good for him for getting the bag, Saquon Barkley, which, by the way, hey, you want to get auto-muted of, like, I'd never read your stuff again? Continue to put out articles that one of the worst signings this offseason was Saquon Barkley. It's like he still's not really even given $40 million guaranteed. Like, shut the hell up with don't pay running backs. Like, I know I've seen it on a couple sites. Like,
I feel so bad for these running backs, man. And it was a really good. I sent you a clip. I think maybe you and Fox or just you on IG was Saquon joined. I'll bring up the Kelsey brothers again. Saquon joined them, and he talked about not wanting to set the running back market. He hasn't wanted to set the running back market over the last couple of years.
He just wants to get paid properly.
He just wants to get paid, and the Giants didn't even offer him a contract. He said that. By the way, the Giants didn't even offer me a contract. So
why do you think I banned this team?
Barber can say that I'm a hater and trader all I want, but listen, the organization didn't offer me a contract, so what am I supposed to do? So he said when Philadelphia reached out to him, he was surprised. And when they reached out, he was obviously interested. But
speaking of which,
these running backs, man, it's just a BS thing to write about.
I could not agree more. Could not agree. This is we were going to call this Sidebar Wednesday or something because did you ever see when Tiki in Olympic coverage dropped the C word? Did you ever see that?
I heard about that. I never saw it. I never saw a clip.
So Mayo was the one that brought it up to me when I was doing his show, and somebody watching the show posted it. I think it was on Twitter, like whatever, found it for us. He legitimately and it's like Mayo was bringing up the fact that that's when he kind of disappeared from TV for a little while.
Yeah, no doubt.
And so the lady made a joke about him not having, or she said something about I want to wear your Super Bowl ring. And he was like, I don't have one. And you saw his face. And I think he thought she was legitimately trying to troll him because they were in an argument and you saw his face. And he didn't like that she said that. And then they were talking about counting rings. And instead of saying count, he said that. And the thing was, it's an intentional slip up because he looked at the camera and kind of went kind of gave a smirk.
Yeah.
Did you hear what I just said? Because you can almost miss it at first. So I mean, of course, like everybody makes mistakes, but like if somebody's opinion, if there's somebody's opinion that I don't care about when it comes to running backs, and whatever he said, Anyway, sorry to sidebar on that one. So Barkley versus Bijan, you're on the board.
Yeah, just take the younger
Bijan?
back here in Bijan. Again, I think these guys are on the same tier. Don't get stopped at one Saquon, but you're going to be fine this year. You're going to probably have a career high in terms of, I'd say, yards per carry, touchdowns, like to a good offense. Offensive line's still going to be good. Yeah, but I like Bijan a little bit more.
So the number 2, speaking of youth, you still like Bijan more than this player, but I'm in the argument of who Breece Hall is. And if you told me Breece Hall versus Bijan Robinson, I think they're very close overall talent, just evaluating them. And I understand the Jets team, there's significant concerns, but I'm looking at the fact that Breece Hall, what he did with that Jets team, with that quarterback situation, with that offensive line last year, and down the stretch was a top 3 running back. At times, he was pushing Christian McCaffrey. He was right there with Kyren Williams. I would just take Breece Hall over Bijan. I'm not going to argue too much if you want to go Bijan, but I think if you look at who's behind Hall also, I agree with Algier's not going to get the workload he got last year. But I do think Algier's a bigger threat than anybody the Jets have. Now, of course, the Jets draft somebody in round 3, and then, they get, of course. But as of right now, that's why I would give Hall the slight edge over Bijan.
Yeah, that makes sense, right? They don't have anybody in their backfield. They traded away Michael Carter. Dalvin Cook was released. So, at this moment, they don't have anybody to cut in. And I just think the one thing, and I know you agree, the one thing it'll an outlier season in terms of catches that he had last year, but he's still probably going to catch, if Rodgers plays a full season, you can just look at the connection that
40,
him and Aaron Jones had.
50.
It could be like that 50 catches, maybe 5 or 6 receiving touchdowns on top of the work that he'll do on the ground. So, and I'm not going to argue that either. I think you make a lot of good points there. It's his backfield. The offensive line should be improved. You just hope that you just have a quarterback in there that can move the football, because that just didn't help him at all last year.
Okay, so we have a lot of names sitting here. So, for all intents and purposes, here's our 8. Whether, McCaffrey, 1, we're not going to argue about. McCaffrey is at 1. Well, Bijan / Breece Hall, 2, 3, Barkley, 4, Kyren Williams, 5, Taylor, Henry, Jacobs. Those are our 8. Those are the 8 that we're in agreement with. We got 2 spots left as we finish up this show meeting. 2 spots. We got to give them to, we mentioned Gibbs already. Yeah. ETN's been brought up a couple times. Achane, Pacheco, we brought up at the top of the show. Rashad White, Mixon, we just recently, he might be one of the ones. And is that the list? Is that we're not putting James Cook there. We're not putting Kenneth Walker there. James Conner, interestingly enough, was there while healthy, but never played a full season. Yeah. Alvin Kamara, surprisingly enough, I don't think people realize that Alvin Kamara last year in points per game was 9th. He was sandwiched between Barkley and Gibbs. I don't think people realize that Kamara was fine for, it wasn't the Kamara people wanted, but he was still Alvin Kamara. Aaron Jones is with the Vikings, but also they don't have a quarterback right now. So, I mean, they do, but not one that they want to go into the season with.
No, that's
so the final spot here, you mentioned ETN's name a couple times. The Bigsby thing is happening again. They're we got to get Bigsby more involved. There's got to blah, blah, blah. And remember last year, people were going nuts for Bigsby. 7th round, because he's one of the best backups. And he could even get a timeshare workload. Yeah. And we kind of talked about it on the show. But Bigsby's style, which is something I brought up last year. So to go way back, I said Kendra Miller was a weird draft pick for me because you had Jamal Williams. And I thought, actually, the funny thing is if you look at my pre-draft profiles, the player I compared Kendra Miller to was Jamal Williams. And why are you building this redundancy behind Alvin Kamara when you know Kamara's suspended? That was the argument at the time. Something we brought up about Bigsby is why did you draft Bigsby? Because he's very similar to ETN. Throw the Tank name out. Tank is like Tank Dell. Tank is not a tank. He's not he's not Blake Corum. So it's still weird. So are you buying into this? He needs more touches because he's not the complimentary timeshare we usually see. He's very redundant of ETN. So do you think he gets more work, and is ETN even a top 12 running back next year?
Man, I want to say that he does get more work, but Doug Peterson just straight up lied to us last year. I don't believe anything that he says. He said the exact same thing last
year. Doug Peterson's
Yeah,
lied to us for like the last 10 years.
Oh yeah, Peterson's been lying to us since he really has been calling the shots in Philadelphia with all those running backs. No, Frank Reich was the OC, but man, he was
even the
using
year he gave
everyone.
all the touches to Miles Sanders. He's like, everybody's going to get involved,
Yeah.
and it was like all Miles Sanders. He just lies every year.
He just lies. That year that they won the Super Bowl was Clement, Blunt, and Ajayi, and you just didn't know it was a hot hand thing.
I miss Jay.
I
Ajayi.
think that I know, me too. I think that they should give more touches to Tank Bigsby, but I can't say with confidence that they are. My one thing with ETN is like it's been 2 years now, where I guess 3. Like unfortunately, he suffered an injury in his rookie season, didn't play, but he has been hurt now. When he gets going on that full workload, something seems to bother him. He struggles inside the red zone. We see Trevor Lawrence sometimes calling his own number, but I do think that they need some sort of short yardage back or goal line back. I just don't think ETN's that type of back. Like I love him, he's very explosive, but I can't put him. I can't put him in there.
Who's your 10th then? Because we know Gibbs is there. Gibbs is going to be higher for some people. Mixon at 10.
Yeah, why not?
Go
I think Mixon, White, and Pacheco are 3 guys that I would rather take than ETN.
I'm grabbing my Texans hat. I'm wearing gray and
go, man.
black today, so I gotta
Texans.
get my Texans hat. Go Texans.
I think CJ Stroud's already a top 5 quarterback in the league. I'm ready to go that far. I've only seen 1 year from him. I'm ready to say that, just forget fantasy, that he is already, his decision making.
Do that next week.
Accurate, that he is a top 5 guy in the league, and this team's just going to get better and better.
Sneak preview. That's next week was going to be top 10 quarterbacks because we have the draft coming up as a preview for shows coming up next week. Top 10, quarterbacks. Might get a little tight end. I'm actually looking at the water because this thing is not broken down at all. There's a slight tint. I'll hold it up in a second. I just want to get.
What did you eat?
I know. I don't think this thing is gonna come out fully combined. It's gonna be shaped back into itself when I take a poop later. It's gonna be oh look, there's a peep in the toilet. It's just we got quarterbacks next week. Maybe a little tight end mixed in there because the week after that, Thor Nystrom is joining. He's going to get a little time off. He's been working like a madman. I figured give you a week off, talk rookies with him, and then we'll have our draft week there. But anyway, so our final 10 is Gibbs and Mixon makes the list. Made the list. No Pacheco, interesting enough, just outside. No ETN, no Achane, no White. But let's see. You want to see how much this thing held up, by the way?
Yeah.
Oh, this is
who would be your 10? Would you put Mixon?
Oh
there?
my God! Yes, I would. This feels so disgusting. It's in this. Look how much it held up. It still has all the green on it.
Wow.
It's very slimy now. You know those
one of those green candy frogs, those gummy frogs.
It stained my fingers. It's we need to get out of here. Do not eat Peeps, everybody. Sorry, Peeps, never sponsoring the show.
They'd be ranked outside the top 50.
But they would be top 5 worse. That's definitely for sure. As I smell my hand live on the show. Follow Chris Meaney at Chris Meaney. 2 to 3 now on Sirius XM, right?
Yeah.
Tuesday through Friday.
2 to 3. We're running. We're running wild. A lot of baseball talk, and I know you're gonna jump on. Whether you know it or not, I don't know if Jeff told you, but you're going to jump on when we get closer to NFL draft.
I said it was a possibility, but it hadn't been confirmed yet. Well, there you go. Confirmed news to me.
Confirmed now. So get ready for a little Ciely and Meaney on Sirius XM when we get closer to draft day.
That'll be fun. And not as fun as what's going to happen later on when I go to the bathroom. We will see you next week.
Peace.